As I stood in the middle of my birthday party, surrounded by laughter and bright decorations, a strange sense of dread washed over me. I had just turned 40, and while everyone else celebrated, I felt a heavy weight in my chest. The smiles of friends and family felt like a mask, hiding something deeper. Was this what my life had become? A series of joyful moments wrapped around an invisible sorrow? Then, amidst the chaos, I caught his gaze, Ethan. Our eyes met across the room, and in that instant, time seemed to freeze. My heart raced. Memories of our past flooded back, memories I thought I had buried. How could I feel this connection again? I quickly looked away, but the heat of that moment lingered. Why did something so forbidden still pull at me like this? I tried to shake it off, focusing instead on my friends who were singing happy birthday. But then, as I reached for a drink, our hands brushed against each other. A simple touch, yet it sent shivers down my spine. It was electric, igniting feelings I had tried so hard to suppress. Why was I feeling this way? It was just a touch, yet it felt like so much more. I could feel the warmth radiating from his skin, and my body responded in ways I never expected. "Are you okay?" Ethan's voice broke through my thoughts, low and concerned. He stepped closer, and I could smell the faint hint of his cologne. It was intoxicating. "I'm fine," I replied too quickly, wishing I could sound more convincing. But my heart pounded, betraying my calm facade. "Just a little overwhelmed, I guess." "Turning 40 can do that to you," he said with a teasing smile, but his eyes searched mine, as if he could see right through the act. I forced a laugh, but inside, I was wrestling with my emotions. Should I push him away? Should I push these feelings down? Yet, a part of me longed for more. The warm laughter of friends faded into the background as I stood there, feeling drawn to him. The attraction was forbidden, but it was undeniable. "Do you want to step outside for a minute?" he asked, his voice softer now. "I think I could use some fresh air." I hesitated. I knew I shouldn't. The party was for me, and I should be focusing on my guests. But the thought of being alone with him, even for just a moment, was too tempting to resist. "Okay," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. As we stepped outside, the cool night air washed over me, contrasting sharply with the heat of the moment inside. I leaned against the railing, trying to collect my thoughts. "This is nice," I said, attempting to lighten the mood. "It is," he replied, standing close enough that I could feel his warmth. "I've missed talking to you like this." "Me too," I admitted, my heart racing again. Why was I opening up to him? This wasn't how I intended to celebrate my birthday. Ethan leaned against the railing beside me, his presence magnetic. "You seem different tonight," he said, studying me. "More alive? Is it the birthday?" "Maybe," I replied, avoiding his gaze. "Or maybe it's just the wine." He chuckled softly. "Wine can't be the only reason. There's something else going on. You can't hide it from me." His words pierced through the layers I had built around my feelings. How could he see through me so easily? "It's just, a lot has changed," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "I feel like I'm at a crossroads." "Crossroads can be scary," he replied, his tone serious now. "But they can also be exciting. You have to decide which path to take." His words hung in the air, and I found myself holding my breath. What path was I really on? The one that led back to a life I thought I was happy with, or the one that ignited this dangerous spark between us? As I looked into his eyes again, I realized I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't quite grasp. The thrill of this connection was intoxicating, but the guilt was lurking just beneath the surface. What did I really want? And more importantly, what would it cost me? The days following my birthday felt different, like I was living in a world altered by a single exchange of glances. Ethan's presence lingered in my mind like a haunting melody, and I couldn't shake the pull I felt towards him. I began to replay our past conversations, the laughter shared, the secrets whispered. Each memory added fuel to a fire I had thought was long extinguished. One afternoon, I found myself at the coffee shop where we used to meet. I was lost in thought, my heart racing at the possibility of seeing him again. The barista called out my name, and just as I grabbed my drink, I heard a familiar voice. "Fancy seeing you here," Ethan said, his smile brightening the dimly lit space. My heart skipped a beat. "Hey." "I didn't think you'd be around," I managed to say, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. "Just taking a break from work," he replied, pulling out a chair across from me. "Mind if I join you?" "Not at all," I said, forcing a casual tone. Inside, I was anything but calm. The sight of him stirred something deep within me, and I knew I had to tread carefully. As we talked, I found myself opening up in ways I hadn't in years. "Things have been tough at home," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes I feel like I'm invisible." Ethan leaned in closer, his eyes searching mine. "What do you mean?" "It's like I'm just going through the motions. My husband, Marcus, he's a good man, but we've lost something. I can't remember the last time we really connected," I admitted, my heart racing as I revealed my vulnerability. "I'm sorry to hear that," Ethan said softly. "It sounds really hard." "I just feel so alone," I continued, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "I thought turning 40 would be different. I thought I'd feel more secure in my life." Ethan nodded, his expression sincere. "It's never too late to change things. You deserve to feel happy and fulfilled." His words wrapped around me like a warm embrace, and for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. As the conversation flowed, the boundaries of friendship began to blur. His charm and attention were intoxicating, making me forget the guilt that loomed over us. "Can I ask you something?" I said, biting my lip nervously. "Of course," he replied, leaning back in his chair, a playful glint in his eyes. "Do you ever think about us? About what could have been?" I blurted out, the question hanging heavily in the air. Ethan's smile faded for a moment, replaced by a look of contemplation. "I do think about it. A lot, actually. There was something special between us." I swallowed hard, the thrill of his admission sending a rush through me. "But we can't go back, right? It's complicated now." "Maybe," he said, his voice low. "But sometimes, complicated can lead to something beautiful." My heart raced at his words, and I felt a mixture of excitement and dread. The thrill of our connection was dangerously intoxicating, but the guilt weighed heavily on my shoulders. I was betraying Marcus, the man I had promised to love and cherish. "I shouldn't be feeling this way," I whispered, my voice trembling. "This isn't fair to anyone." "I know," Ethan replied, his eyes filled with understanding. "But feelings aren't always fair. They just happen." As we sat there, the world around us faded into the background. The laughter of other patrons, the clinking of cups, all became a distant echo. I was lost in the moment, caught between the thrill of this dangerous connection and the mounting guilt that gnawed at my conscience. "What are we doing?" I finally asked, breaking the silence. "I don't know," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I can't deny that I want to be close to you." Those words hung between us, a promise and a threat all at once. I knew we were treading on thin ice, but the desire to feel alive again pulled me deeper into this emotional affair. The line between friendship and something more was fading, and I was terrified of where it might lead. As the conversation continued, I felt exhilarated yet trapped, haunted by the knowledge that I was risking everything. I had opened Pandora's box, and the echoes of my betrayal began to resonate louder in my mind. What would happen if Marcus found out? What would happen to my life? But in that moment, all I could think about was Ethan and the connection that felt so alive, so dangerous, and so undeniably real. The days turned into a blur of secret meetings and stolen moments. Each encounter with Ethan left me feeling exhilarated yet weighed down by guilt. I often wondered how I could be so caught up in this dangerous connection while pretending everything was fine with Marcus. My heart raced as I navigated the facade of my life, trying to keep my two worlds from colliding. One evening, we met at a small, dimly lit restaurant. The ambience was cozy, but my stomach churned with anxiety. As I sat across from Ethan, I couldn't help but notice how his eyes sparkled in the candlelight. It made me forget, even if just for a moment, the reality I was avoiding. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, leaning in slightly. "You seem a bit distant." I forced a smile, trying to mask the turmoil inside me. "I'm fine, just thinking about everything." Ethan reached across the table and gently squeezed my hand. The warmth of his touch sent shivers through me. "You don't have to pretend with me. I can see it in your eyes." I looked down at our hands, my pulse quickening. "It's just... I've never felt this way before. I'm so confused." "Confusion is part of it," he said softly. "But you shouldn't have to feel this way alone. I'm here for you." His words were like a balm to my troubled soul, but they also deepened the conflict within me. I wanted to lean into this connection, yet I felt the weight of my marriage pressing down on me. "I can't keep lying to Marcus," I whispered, fear creeping into my voice. "Maybe it's time to face the truth," Ethan suggested. "You deserve to be happy, and you deserve to feel alive." I sighed, feeling trapped between two worlds. But what if it all falls apart? What if Marcus finds out? Ethan's expression turned serious. "Then you'll have to deal with it, but at least you'll be true to yourself. Whatever this is between us, it matters." As I sat there, torn between desire and duty, I overheard a conversation from the table next to us. James, my close friend, was talking about Ethan. My heart sank. "Did you hear about Ethan?" he said, his voice laced with concern. "I hope he's not getting too close to anyone." I barely caught my breath. My mind raced with thoughts. Did James know something? Did he suspect? The seeds of doubt began to sprout, and I felt a cold wave of fear wash over me. I glanced at Ethan, who was oblivious to the conversation unfolding beside us. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice shaky. Ethan furrowed his brow. "What do you mean?" "James just mentioned you," I said, trying to keep my tone steady. He sounded worried. Ethan's eyes darkened. "Worried? About what?" "I don't know," I replied, my heart pounding. "But what if he figures it out? What if he tells Marcus?" Ethan leaned closer, his voice low and urgent. "We need to be careful. But you have to decide what you want. This can't go on forever." His words struck a chord deep within me. I was caught in a storm of emotions, torn between the thrill of our connection and the reality of my life. I couldn't keep pretending. I had to confront my feelings and the choices I had made. "I don't know what I want," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I just know that I can't keep living like this." Ethan's gaze softened. "Then let's figure it out together. You're not alone in this." As I looked into his eyes, I felt the weight of my choices pressing down on me. I was standing at a crossroads, and the path I chose would define the rest of my life. I had to confront my feelings, the reality of my situation, and the truth of what I truly wanted. "Okay," I finally said, my heart racing. "Let's figure this out. Together." With those words, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. But deep down, I also knew that whatever path I chose would come with consequences. The echoes of my betrayal were growing louder, and I could no longer ignore them. The rain fell heavily outside, each drop echoing the turmoil in my heart. It was one of those nights where the world seemed to pause, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The storm mirrored my emotional chaos, and I sat curled up on the couch, staring at the window. The dark clouds outside felt like a reflection of the dark place I was in. I was caught in a storm of truth, and it was time to face it. As I listened to the rain pelt against the glass, I thought about Marcus. He was in the other room, probably watching TV, completely unaware of the storm brewing in my mind. I took a deep breath, mentally preparing for what I knew I had to do. The weight of my secrets pressed down on me like the storm above. I could no longer hide from the truth. I stood up and walked to the dining room, where Marcus sat, his eyes glued to the screen. "Hey, can we talk?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. He turned to me, his brow furrowed with concern. "Sure, what's up?" I could see the kindness in his eyes, and it made my heart ache even more. "I think we need to have a serious conversation about our marriage." Marcus paused the show, and I felt the atmosphere shift. "Okay. What's bothering you?" I hesitated, the words caught in my throat. "I've been feeling lost. Like we're drifting apart. I can't keep pretending everything is fine." He looked at me, confusion flickering across his face. "What do you mean?" "I thought things were okay." "They aren't," I admitted, feeling the tears welling up. "I've been hiding things from you." "Like what?" he asked, his voice steady, but I could see the concern deepening in his eyes. I hesitated again, knowing that saying what I needed to say would change everything. "I've been seeing someone else." The words hung in the air, heavy and charged. His expression shifted from confusion to shock. "What do you mean?" "Who?" "The truth is, I've been spending time with Ethan," I confessed, watching as his face fell. I didn't want it to happen, but it did. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. My heart raced, and I braced myself for his reaction. "Ethan?" "My friend," he finally asked, disbelief coloring his voice. "Yes," I said, my voice cracking. "I never meant to hurt you, but I need you to understand that this is about me, too. I feel trapped, and I don't know how to fix it." Marcus looked away, his jaw clenched. "You've betrayed me in the worst way. How could you do this?" I was lost, I pleaded, feeling the weight of my actions crashing down on me. I needed someone to listen, someone who made me feel alive. "I didn't want to hurt you." "But you did," he said softly, pain etched across his face. "You've broken our trust. How can we move forward from this?" I felt my heart shatter as I saw the hurt in his eyes. "I know I've made a terrible mistake." "I'm sorry, Marcus. I never wanted to hurt you." The rain continued to pour outside, a fitting backdrop to the storm in our hearts. "What do you want to do now?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to keep lying," I said, my voice trembling. "I think I need to end things with Ethan. I can't keep doing this to you, to us." Marcus looked at me, his expression torn. "And what if it's too late? What if I can't forgive you?" I felt a wave of panic wash over me. "I don't know," I admitted, feeling the weight of uncertainty. "But I want to try. I want to rebuild what we had, if you'll let me." The words hung between us, heavy with the weight of my betrayal and the possibility of redemption. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, but I had to confront my choices. As the storm raged on outside, I realized that I was standing at a crossroads. I had to decide whether to face the truth or continue down a path of deception. "Just give me a chance," I pleaded, my heart aching for his understanding. Marcus took a deep breath, his eyes searching mine. "It's not that simple, but I'll think about it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. In that moment, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. I had taken the first step towards honesty, but I knew the journey was far from over. The echoes of my betrayal were still loud, but I was ready to face them. The fallout from my confession echoed in the silence of the room. I could feel the weight of my choices pressing down on me like an anchor. The rain continued to fall outside, but my heart felt even heavier. I had taken the first step towards honesty, but the path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. "Can we talk about what happens next?" Marcus asked, breaking the silence. His voice was steady, but I could hear the hurt behind it. I nodded, my stomach twisting with anxiety. I want to understand how you feel. I know I've hurt you, and I am so sorry for that. He looked out the window, watching the raindrops race down the glass. It's hard to process everything. I trusted you, and now I feel lost. I know, I said softly. I feel lost too. I thought I could fix things on my own, but I was wrong. Marcus turned to me, his eyes searching mine. Why, Ethan? Why did you turn to him? I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. He listened to me. He made me feel seen when I felt invisible. But I realize now that I should have come to you instead. He shook his head. It's not just about listening. It's about love and loyalty. You broke that bond. I know, I whispered, tears welling in my eyes. I never wanted to betray you. I was just scared of facing what was wrong between us. Scared, he repeated, his voice rising. That's an understatement. You didn't just cross a line, you shattered it. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, I said, my voice trembling. But I want to try. I want to be honest and work through this together. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident on his face. What does that even look like? How can I trust you again? I don't know, I admitted, feeling the weight of my guilt. But I want to be here for you. I want to prove that I can change. I need to end things with Ethan for good. Do you really think that's enough? He asked, skepticism creeping into his tone. Just cutting him off? What about the damage that's already been done? I know it's not enough, I said, my heart racing. But I have to start somewhere. I want to rebuild our trust, even if it takes time. Marcus looked at me, his expression softening slightly. Time is what I need. But I can't promise anything right now. I understand, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I just hope you can find it in your heart to give me a chance. He nodded slowly, the weight of our conversation hanging in the air. It's going to take more than just words. I need to see real change. I will show you, I promised. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. As we stood there, the rain began to lighten, a small symbol of hope amidst our turmoil. I was terrified of what lay ahead, but I felt a flicker of determination. I had to confront the reality of my choices and the pain I had caused. What about Ethan? Marcus asked, his voice low. What will you say to him? I'll tell him it's over, I replied firmly. I can't keep living a lie. I need to be honest with myself and with you. Marcus looked away, his expression unreadable. Just make sure you're ready for the fallout. It won't be easy. I know, I said, fear creeping back in. But I have to do this. I can't keep running from the truth. As I prepared to face Ethan, a mix of dread and relief washed over me. I wanted to believe that this was the first step towards redemption. I had made mistakes, but I was ready to own them. Thank you for talking to me, I said, my voice filled with sincerity. I hope we can find our way back to each other. He nodded, a slight flicker of hope in his eyes. We'll see. Just remember, trust is not easily rebuilt. I will, I promised, knowing that I had a long road ahead of me. As I turned to leave the room, I took one last look at Marcus. The storm outside was fading, but the storm within me was just beginning. I was ready to face the reckoning, no matter how painful it might be. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the dim light of our living room and into the world that awaited me. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with tension. I knew I had to face the music. The first step toward rebuilding my life was to confront Ethan and end our affair for good. As I drove to his apartment, my heart raced. Memories of our stolen moments flooded my mind. I felt both drawn to him and repulsed by my own choices. I parked outside and sat in the car for a moment, gathering my thoughts. I can do this, I whispered to myself. I need to do this. When I finally knocked on his door, my hand trembled. Ethan opened the door, surprise flashing across his face. "Hey, I wasn't expecting you," he said, stepping back to let me in. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady but my heart pounding. "Of course," he replied, concern etching his features. "What's going on?" I took a deep breath and started. "I came here to end things between us. For good." Ethan's expression shifted from surprise to confusion. "What do you mean?" "I thought we were building something real." "I thought so too," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "But I can't keep living a lie. I need to be honest with myself and with Marcus. I've hurt him enough." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "But we have something special, don't we? Can't we at least try to figure this out?" "No," I said firmly. "I have to make things right with my husband." I realized that I was running away from my problems instead of facing them. "I can't hurt Marcus anymore." Ethan's face fell. "So, that's it? You just going to walk away?" "It's not that simple," I replied, tears welling in my eyes. "I care about you, but I can't keep doing this. It's tearing me apart, and I need to focus on rebuilding my marriage." He stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. "But what about us? What we had?" "Wasn't real," I said, the words tasting bitter. "It was a distraction from my reality. I've betrayed my husband and my friend, and I can't ignore that anymore." Ethan looked hurt, and I felt a pang of regret. "You don't understand how hard this is for me," he said. "I thought we had a future together." "I know," I whispered, feeling the weight of my choice. "But I can't be that person anymore. I need to take responsibility for my actions." He stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the hurt in his eyes. "So, this is really goodbye?" "Yes," I replied, my voice trembling. "I'm so sorry for everything. I never wanted to hurt you." He nodded slowly, accepting my decision but clearly struggling with it. "I hope you find what you're looking for, then." With those words, I felt a finality wash over me. I turned to leave, but a part of me wanted to stay, to hold on to what we had. But I knew I couldn't. I took one last look at him, the man who had made me feel alive in a way I hadn't in years, and walked out the door. As I got back into my car, a mix of relief and sadness filled me. I had taken a step toward redemption, but at a cost. I knew I had to face Marcus again, and the thought made my stomach knot. Driving home, I felt the weight of my choices pressing down on me like a heavy fog. I had to confront Marcus again, to show him that I was serious about healing our marriage. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I had to try. I had to believe that love could survive this betrayal. When I arrived home, the house was quiet. I took a moment to collect my thoughts before entering. I had to be honest, not just with Marcus but also with myself. Love and trust were fragile, but I was determined to rebuild what had been broken. I walked into the living room, where Marcus was waiting, a mixture of hope and apprehension on his face. "How did it go?" he asked, his voice low. "It's over," I said, my heart racing. "I ended things with Ethan. I want to work on us." His eyes searched mine for sincerity, and I could see the flicker of hope. "Are you sure? I need to know that you mean it." "I do," I replied, my voice steady. "I know it's going to take time, but I want to prove to you that I can change." Marcus nodded slowly, a cautious smile beginning to form. "Okay. Let's take it one step at a time." And in that moment, I felt a small spark of hope ignite within me. The road ahead would be long and challenging, but I was ready to walk it, hand in hand with the man I loved. Share this story if you believe that love can conquer even the toughest challenges. Leave a comment about a time when an unexpected visit changed your life, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one.